And I'm afraid if I have a number on, I will start race again, you know.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Odd Tandem. Another great guest today, an old teammate of ours. He did 13 times Paris-Roubaix. He finished 10. Also won the Tour of Avenir in 2005. And just an overall great guy, Lars Bak. Jensi, good old friend of ours. It was great catching up.
It was definitely. And so good to see another teammate that does well in life, found his happy place, is living a nice, normal life. It's good to see that, he's doing really well. And on a personal note, once you listen to the podcast, you will see one of my most embarrassing, stupid moments in my career was including him. So I was actually happy that I have a chance to apologize one more time for that moment back in the days.
Yes. Here we go. So sit back and relax and listen to our great conversation with Lars Bak. All right, welcome Lars Bak to the Odd Tandem.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Bobby and Jens.
Man, great to see you again. It's been a while. We rode together at my favorite team of my career, CSC, back in the day. And to our viewers that are watching, we can see that Lars has kept quite a few mementos from that team as well. He's back of him is all of his jerseys from the teams that he rode on right now. Man, oh man, this is cool. But hey, Lars, Paris-Roubaix just got over a couple days ago, and the guys that did the race are recovering. They're probably still very, very sore. We're going to talk to somebody that actually did the race on the next episode. But we wanted to talk to you because you did Roubaix 13 times. You finished 10. I'd like to hear what you thought of Paris-Roubaix this year.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, tail crosswind, and you knew it will be a very fast race like last year. And, with Pogačar joining this year, it was, really exciting to see, could he win? Actually, I had him as my favorite. But in the end, he made a rookie mistake, but still he finished second, So I think it could have been more, exciting to see Mathieu van der Poel and actually also Mads Pedersen, that was really, really unlucky, to battle the last, 20 kilometers over Carrefour de l'Arbre. Let's say they come into the track, who had the best sprint, We didn't saw that because actually, first Mads, he punctured, then Pogačar, he had this crash, and actually I thought Pogačar could come back, but he didn't. He came back to Mathieu, and I have to say, Albers in the Koenig, Mathieu van der Poel, chapeau, third year in a row, that's crazy.
Yep, last time was in the years 78, 79, and 80, Francesco Moser. It is, historical. And what do you think about? I had Pogačar as a winner as well, right? And I felt he was too early, too isolated. He didn't have enough teammates. Nils Politt was the last. Kai came out with a puncture from Arenberg. And from there on, it was just all by himself. I felt he didn't have enough protection or people preparing the attack for him.
No, but actually, first of all, there's a big difference if you do Paris-Roubaix in headwind or tailwind. And also, when they're riding so fast, it's impossible for the helpers to actually gain advance. You saw Florian Vermeersch, you saw Nils Politt. They tried before Arnberg to come, in the front and try to be there when Pogačar he will attack. But the problem is that the big riders like Mathieu, like Mads, like Pogačar, they're riding so hard in the Arnberg, on the pavé, the sector in Arnberg. So who can actually follow them, And that's the problem when there's tailwind to get you domestiques in the front, And you saw in the start of the race, every time Alpecin tried to attack, there was a little Trek rider after. There was a UAE rider after. So these three teams, had the biggest favorite, and none of these teams want to have, one of the helpers in a breakaway, in the morning breakaway. Let's call it like that, because actually, Jonas Rutt and Markus Hulgaard, they went really far in the race. So let's say you could put Florian Vermeersch in that breakaway, or a guy from Alpecin, then you could have, or a little Trek, you could have a helper in front, but that was not possible as I see it this year.
So Lars, before we go further into Paris-Roubaix, we got this little series of quick-fire questions. 4 questions, and if you can, give us relatively short answers. All right. Would you ever want to ride the Paris-Roubaix Cycletourist Tour?
No.
Good. Same for me. What is more fun, your podcast now or life as a pro bike rider?
Maybe my podcast now.
Good. Why is beer so expensive in Denmark?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
I know.
But in Norway, it's even more expensive.
Wow. So you're still lucky then?
We are more lucky than the Norwegian and Swedish.
Yes, that's for sure. Okay, last question. Who is the better bike rider, Mats Pedersen or Jonas Vingegaard?
Oh,
I know.
That's difficult. I will say Jonas Vingegaard.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah, that the expense of beer didn't really get in our way when we used to have our team training camps up in Denmark at the end of the year. If you guys all remember that, I don't know. Maybe they had a sale on it because we consumed a lot of it back in the day. Which you got to wonder if these kids even celebrate, off-season parties or party after Paris-Roubaix, for example. I remember hearing some good stories that you guys would get in to some pretty interesting situations after Paris-Roubaix every year. But Lars, you mentioned that Tadej made a rookie mistake, and you can't hold that against him because he's never done Paris-Roubaix before. But there were 30 sections of cobbles this year, 30 sectors. How important is the recon of each one of those sectors, and how many times do you actually go and actually do the recon, or is it just the simple fact that year after year you remember things?
First of all, I've been crashing a lot on the cobbles also, and Tadej Pogačar, he have a very, very good technique. But you also saw him in Strade Bianche, where he also crashed actually. There he came back, won the race. He's not afraid to go hard and go full into the corners, which I actually like, because you also have to take some chances. And I will not say it was a chance he took, but he of course accelerated on that sector, and he did like an attack. And then Roubaix, you go always to the edge, So don't misunderstand me. He's the best rider in the world, and it's actually, I'm not saying it's nice he's crashing, but it's actually also nice, not nice, but it's also interesting to see that such a good rider can also make, let's say, mistakes, because it was his first Roubaix. He did the Tour de France in 2022 where there was cobblestones, where he was flying over the cobbles. He is so talented in all terrain, and he can do everything on a bike. But just a small mistake also for him, he lose the race. I'm not saying that he could have won, but definitely after that crash, he could not come back to Mathieu. So, of course, like you say, Bobby, the recons are really, really important. And you saw also Pogačar, he did not only the recon, but he also did the recon with behind the motorbike, weeks before to actually do it in race pace. My personal experience from Paris-Roubaix is that you more times you did the race, you actually you remember the parkour, because the first time you're doing it, you're just full of panic and you actually don't get the overview, because you are so afraid also, especially the first sectors, it's a carnage, it's so dangerous, and you're actually just hoping that that you don't crash. So I will say, and I think also it's just the pure facts that you have to do Paris-Roubaix. I think it's 6.6 times before you can win it normally. It's like the experienced riders have really an advance in Paris-Roubaix. But of course, when Pogačar come, he can still finish the second because he's so talented, you know. And then you have to also remember, was it in 2021 in the muddy year where all the podium was the first time during Paris-Roubaix, Colbrelli, Florian Vermeersch, and Mathieu van der Poel. That year, the podium was all debutants, you know. So, of course, you can still do it without experience, but it helps, if you ask me.
It clearly does. It clearly does. And I actually spotted another beginner's mistake. Towards the end of the race, his little left wrist was bleeding because he had a watch on. Probably the sponsor paid a fair bit of money to make him suffer through this, but he hadn't had the watch probably tight enough. So the watch was vibrating, cutting into his skin, and there was a big stain of blood on his white glove, right? Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, I noticed it. And I was thinking, why you don't put like, you call it hospital tape, you know, because that could maybe have helped, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But for sure, he will maybe do that next year. But then, like this very, very expensive watch got a lot of viewers on it, you know, because he was bleeding from the hand. So that he also pay attention to next year, I think.
Mm-hmm. Jeez, I did see that, but I had no idea what. I assumed that maybe that was from his little crash, but that kind of makes sense if his watch was cutting into his arm. But you know, all those guys are trying to outdo each other with the fancy watches nowadays.
Which I think is cool. Actually, I think it's cool to see them riding with a watch on, you know, because that's a little bit old style, and I like that actually.
Do you guys remember one year we were sponsored by a Danish watch company, and on our long sleeve jersey there was actually the watch was like sublimated onto like our wrists. It was a Danish company. Do you remember the name of that?
Skane watches, yeah, Skane watches, and I didn't think they were so happy because they put all the money on the commercial with Ivan Basso for the Tour de France 2006, but they could not really show it, you know, so they were not so happy.
And one more question, because, you know, those are rural roads, right? Like you go out and you do the recon, you study it, you have your lines, but weather, water, mud, then you take into account that the women, the under 23s, the juniors all go on the parcours before the men. Does that many cars and that many cyclists actually kind of like make it so that it's almost impossible to know exactly the line that you're going to take? Because you would think that the mud and the dirt would change a little bit with all that traffic on it.
I will say that the most tricky thing this year was that for 3 weeks it was not raining in the north of France. But then the night before, on the Saturday night, it was really raining. And you could see some of the sectors, they were really muddy. Because on a dry, when it's completely dry, you can actually go a lot on the sides, and it's going to be a faster race. And also, when you get tired on the cobbles, you always search for the side of the sectors, you know. But you had to be careful this year because there was some of the places that was really muddy. So in your head, if you thought, okay, I can go on the side, then you have to be careful because a lot of the places there was mud. And of course, when the juniors and the women, the under 23 men, they go over before, then you always put a little bit mud and shit on the paves, you know. So of course it's not ideal, but in Roubaix, man, it doesn't make sense anyway. It's there's nothing that's ideal in Roubaix, you know.
And the organizers tend to fence it more and more off. They put this little, you know, plastic band, so the riders couldn't really leave the cobble section. They are forced to stay on the cobbles. What are we making out of that bottle throw to Mathieu van der Poel? And also, it seems like it hits him more often than any other rider. Why would spectators don't like him? I mean, he's a fantastic rider, and to me, he comes across as a nice person. I don't know what it is.
I also don't understand it because, like you say, he is. I really enjoy seeing him ride. I also really likes when he's doing interviews. He's never coming with bad excuses. He's never hiding. He's always presentable, and
he's respectful towards. If he loses, he's respectful towards the winner. They were just better. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He for me, it's. But of course, there's many Belgians supporters at Paris-Roubaix, and maybe they were hoping that he had a Belgian passport instead of Dutch. I don't know, man. And I think you have to be also stupid to do it when you have all these cameras. You know that they're gonna find that guy. Like now, he actually went to the police himself. So, but yeah, he probably also had some beers and but man, there's 100,000 of people on the roads every race. So how can you actually do anything against it? Now I saw the UCI, they made a statement that please don't do it. But yeah, it's outdoor sport, so. You just hope that the spectators they're standing beside him, they're saying they grab him, and take him to the police, because actually he could have maybe hurt him so hard that he could have fallen off the bike, Imagine that. Yep. And then it could be a big case, Now he's lucky that nothing happened, But yeah, it's we don't want to see that again. I don't hope so.
Yeah. So you started 13 Paris-Roubaix. You finished 10. Your best results was in 2011 when you finished 5th. So, I was going back looking through your results, and, when you can get 5th, but a lot of the times you were 50 to 80. So what is the craziest thing or the craziest sequence of events, the chaos that you had to deal with in those other years when you weren't as high up as in 2011?
I had, I think, 3 times where I had crashes that stopped me to coming to the velodrome, But I remember especially my first Paris-Roubaix in 2004. I was riding for this Banchero Lotterie, and we didn't have tubular. We just had like clinches. And it was 25 millimeters, and we had to have 7 bars in the tires, because otherwise you snapped the inner tube, So man, there I could not. I had so much cramp in my hands because riding with 7 bars over these couples with the 25 millimeters tires, I cannot recommend that. but my goal that year was just to finish my first Paris-Roubaix, and I finished, I think, as number 90 or something, or 100, really like half an hour back. But for me, it was always my dream to just do one Paris-Roubaix. And when I finished my career, it was actually that race I did most times, 13 times. And I was lucky and also very strong that year in 2011 to be 5th. And actually, when we came to the velodrome, we were sprinting for the 2nd place. So it was also a dream coming true, because I was not a star rider, I was an average rider. But that's also what sometimes happen in Paris-Roubaix, that you with this hardness and also never giving up, that can bring you along in Paris-Roubaix, and that what I did in 2011.
Yeah, like for example, Van Sommeren was not a world star, very good, solid rider, right? Or Matthew Hayman, 16 years. In his last year or 13 years, he did Paris-Roubaix. In his last year, he actually managed to win it. A very good rider, like you, strong, never give up. And yeah, sometimes you just need also a little bit of luck that everything fits together, right?
Exactly. And not to talk about bad luck in Paris-Roubaix, but actually my bad luck the 2 years after 2011, in 2012 and 2013, I had, in 2012, I didn't do Roubaix because I had a broken hand from Het Nieuwsblad, and the year after, I also broke my hand in Marseillais, the opening race in France, and I just came back so I could start Roubaix, but I was not in good shape. But that was what you can say, 2 of my good years where I didn't follow up on my 5th place in 2011, And then my last, let's say, really, really good Paris-Roubaix was in 2015, where I managed to crash, with 38 kilometers to go, where actually I launched an attack, and then I did a little bit like Pogacar. I went too fast in the corner, and I crashed. And then I came back on the bike, and I was like 2 or 3 minutes behind the winner, but that's how it is. Like I say, you go to the edge in Paris-Roubaix, but every time you start Paris-Roubaix, it's for me it was a highlight of the year, because you are scared, you are full of adrenaline, you're so excited, For me, it's one of the biggest races in the world. So just be at the start line. It's a big was a big thing for me.
Geez, that's just another thing that I have to respect, is because I never did Paris-Roubaix. I was in a totally different genre of rider than you guys were. But when you look at the result sheet and you see how far guys finished behind the winner, guys that finished outside the time limit. This year, the last guy, he finished almost 54 minutes behind Matteo. 54 minutes. And that was Joseph Pidcock, Tom Pidcock's brother. And I just have to really admire that desire to finish. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but in the junior race, George Hincapie's son had to run the final 2 kilometers to the velodrome. He had to run with his cycling shoes for 2K just to get to the velodrome. And he did 1 full lap, or 400 meters running around the track. And then George got a bike from his teammate and swapped him out so he could at least finish the final 200-300 meters on, riding instead of running. But that brought a tear to my eye, I have to say. Someone that could so easily have quit decides to run for 2 kilometers just to finish, or in Joseph Pidcock's case, to finish almost an hour down. That is the beauty of Roubaix, because it's everybody's battle, their own personal battle, right? And it seems to me, unless you finish in an ambulance, you're going to give it your all to actually finish. And one of my biggest regrets of my career is not trying Roubaix. So when Jens asked you if you wanted to do the cyclotourist Roubaix, and you said no, and he said no, I think I want to do it one day. I think I want to do it just to say that I experienced that. I got to do the Tour of Flanders one a couple years ago, and it was one of the coolest days on the bike I've ever had.
Of course, it's actually I was in Roubaix this weekend to commentate the women's race and also the men's race. So actually I saw when the juniors came in, and I saw also the under 23 final, actually where we had a Danish winner, Albert Witten Philipsen. But it's on the Saturday you have this Gran Fondo Roubaix, and it's like with 6,000 people. And the reason why I don't want to do it is that I've done it so many times, and I'm afraid if I do it, I want to race, and that's actually, maybe we come to that later, but it's also one of the things I don't miss after I stopped my career. I don't miss the competition, because that was actually in the end what forced me to stop, because I could not follow the best anymore. It was like I had enough, and I'm afraid if I have a number on, I will start race again, And that's why I have not done any races, like fun races or tourist races since I stopped, because I don't think I can do it just for enjoy it. Because if you do Paris-Roubaix or Flandern, it's there's so many people that want to race you, but maybe you change your mind in some years. But for now, that's actually why I don't want to do it.
I cannot agree more. That competition I don't miss at all. When I go to some bike events, Grand Fondo, whatever, I say, hey, listen, people, I know Shut Up Blacks and all that, but that's behind. I am retired in capital letters. Read it from my lips. Retired. And I don't want to race. I want to ride with you because I like you guys. And, I want to talk, but no more racing for me. But Lars, when we talk about racing...
Whoa. Jensi, you're full of it. Because we do the L Tour of Tucson every year, And last year we did the shorter one. So we did the 100K one, not the 100-mile one. And Lars, we're up there in the start, and he starts like the normal Yenzi, right? Like trying.
Don't believe him a word.
Should I go in that breakaway? I really feel like going now. So, okay. That only lasted for 5 minutes before I almost kicked you off your bike and you calmed down. But you did still have that at the start. You were like gibbering like you would every single stage of a stage race. But then you're very quickly looking for the aid stations to stop and say hello to your people. So
and get cookies.
No, just to come back on why people always try to finish Paris-Roubaix. I think also for my own history. When I grew up, I played football for 10 years before I started cycling when I get 16 years old. But even when I played football, I always saw Paris-Roubaix from 92, 93 with Duc de Lussal, with Ballerini, with Johan Museev. For me, that was the highlight of the year to see Paris-Roubaix in the television. And, like the history, that epic, this toughness the race have, the history it have. That makes that you have to honor the race. You have to fight the whole way to the finish line. It doesn't matter if you are half an hour back. And I think that is the DNA in cycling, and that's what you have to do in Roubaix. Never give up, and that's why every rider have a sports director that tells you that story. And especially Josh Hincapie's son, of course, he will not disappoint his dad. He was the king of Roubaix, so for sure he will do everything to finish. So I understand if he even have to crawl on his hands in the end, he will do it. Without knowing him, I can imagine that. Yeah.
Lars, apart from Roubaix, would you say that your Giro Italia stage win was your best day, your best result, or you were twice Danish champion, right? And you looked really fantastic in that red and white jersey. Was that more important to you, national champion, or you think the Giro stage was your best one?
Of course, the Giro d'Italia stage win in a Grand Tour is the biggest for me. Of course, I always hoped to win in the Tour de France, but I was never good enough for that, so I had to take a Grand Tour stage win in the Giro d'Italia. So I'm really, for me, like I said, I was not good in anything. I was not a sprinter. I was not a climber. I was not like I was like an average rider. So I had to be in the breakaway to go for the victories. But still, I won 12 professional victories. So it was not like I didn't try to win. And I actually was Danish champion 4 times. 1 time in road race and 3 times in the time trial. But a Danish champion, it was really also a big day. But to win a stage in a Grand Tour, you have that. Yeah, you have that forever. You also have the other victories forever. But that is always something you when people say, okay, that's pretty cool to win a Grand Tour stage win.
You know what's also pretty cool to win that I was unaware or I had forgotten that you won was the 2005 Tour de Avenir. And to our viewers and listeners, Tour de Avenir basically means Tour of the Future. And Lars won that in 2005. So you can say that you're an average rider all you want, but when you look at the palmarès of the guys that have won the Tour de Avenir, you're in some pretty elite company. So tell us a little bit about that race, because that beginning, start of your career, winning something like that, as prestigious as it is, being more of a cobbled classics rider rather than a mountain goat, but you had to have been climbing quite well to win the Avenir. What are your memories of that race? 20 years ago, I'll remind you, it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, but that's many ask me about this. And first of all, Tour de l'Avenir was that year I did in 2005. It was an under 26 race. It was not like a Nation Cup, like an under 23 race like it is today. So it was like an open race. So you had like national teams. You also had like Credit Agricole with Bradley Wiggins. You had like La France du Jeu with Mark Renshaw. You had like, it was a mix. So in Team CSC, I think it was the only time Team CSC did it. And I remember Scott Sunderland, he was the sports director. So we come there with Kasper Klostergaard, there was a stagiaire. We had Andy Schleck, there was a neo-professional, Matthew Brashill. Brian Van Borg, Christian Müller. So it was six man's teams, and it was 10 days. And already on the first day, I went in the break in the north of France, actually with Andy Schleck and Andy. We were like 6 or 7 guys, and he did actually the lead out for me. And so I took the leader jersey, and we had 20 seconds to the bunch. But then already on stage number 4, there was a lot of crosswind. That was the longest stage of 220 kilometers. And we actually had Christian Müller, me, and Andy Schleck in that breakaway, and we distanced the bunch with, 15 minutes or something. And so we were like 20 riders that basically could win the race after that. And then we had no mountaintop finishes. We had this really hard stage that finished in Aurillac. And we were up in 1,600 meters, and there was, from that top to the finish, that was quite long. It was actually the stage Bradley Wiggins, he won. But Andy Schleck, you could see he was a big talent already there, because he helped me a lot. And if Andy was not there, I could never have won Tour de l'Avenir. So it was also a little bit, again, all the cases and all the stages went into my favor. And of course, I was strong. I had good legs. And I did also a good time trial, and in the end, I won Tour de l'Avenir. And like you say, Bobby, if you look at the palmarès on Tour de l'Avenir, it's a quite good list to be on, I must say that.
Well, also, I mean, if you look at your own team, you had later Tour de France winner Andy Schleck as your domestic. Who can say in his life, hey, I had Andy Schleck pulling for me? That is legendary stuff. I mean, Tour de France winner Bradley Wiggins was there. That is absolutely bloody awesome. And Aurillac, for our viewers and listeners, Aurillac is a smaller town in the Pyrenees, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And to get there, you gotta go across some serious mountain to get to that little village in the valley out there, Aurillac. I remember it well.
Yeah. No, but it was the year. It was my first year with Team CSC. It was also the year I got Danish champion in front of Mathieu Brachel and Lars Mikkelsen. And actually, in the end, that year I won also Paris-Roubaix. And that time it was also a quite good race to win, because it was the Coupe de France, and that time you didn't have the world tour, so the points also counted in these kind of races. And I had four wins already the first year with Team CSC. So for me it was a really good year.
And then don't forget, in 2006, you won with me the Eindhoven team time trial. We crushed everybody that year. We beat Discovery Channel by like 40 seconds, Gerolsteiner, Phonak, De Wiedemann Lotto. And then you went on to win the team time trial in the Vuelta later that year as well. I think it was the opening stage with CSC. So obviously you're good at those. Do you want to see more team time trials in races in the future, or is that kind of a thing of the past?
I would like to see it, and actually I can say that I only did Vuelta a España 2 times, and every time I won the team time trial. So that's a good record, you know. And I was also lucky to do it in the Giro Italia, also with HTC. And if Bernie Eisel, he didn't crash on the team time trial in 2011 Tour de France, we could also have won that team time trial. I hope Bernie hears this, because I was happy I didn't crash, because then I would have got shit from Cavendish and Bernie. But Bernie, he actually crashed in the first corner, and we were only 5 seconds in the end after Garmin. And I think there was 5 teams in 5 seconds there in 2011. But it could have been pretty cool after the career to say that you won the team time trial in all Grand Tours. But in the Tour, I didn't do it. But next year in the Tour de France, you're gonna have it where you're gonna finish on the top of Montjuic in Barcelona, and then they're gonna do the same concept like they have done now in Paris-Nice, where the time of the first rider gonna count. Which I think is also not, I find it a little bit strange if you call it a team time trial, because I find it also, what do you say, important to build the team. Okay, you need to have 5 riders at the finish line. And in our times, it was 9-man teams at a Grand Tour. But when you finish on a climb like Montjuic, then you're gonna see a big time difference after the first stage next year in the Tour, if you ask me. So it's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
I believe they do it for that reason, Lars, like you
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
big time gaps.
Yeah.
They don't want the winning team being the place positions 1 to 8 forever. They want the leaders to fight for the win. So they're all going to go up single, alone, full gas to the finish line, I guess. I think they do it to create more thrill, more drama, and more pressure on everyone. Talking about time trialing, that brings me to one of my most embarrassing and terrible moments I had in my career, I really must say. Do you remember the team training camp in California where I crashed on the TT bike in front of you? And I was relatively lucky. I didn't get hurt too bad. I lost skin, but not too bad. But you went on top of me and you were hurt really bad. And I still feel so terrible. And I almost feel like I want to apologize once per week to you because I could see you were in a world of pain because of me. Remember, we had the super tiny handlebars with like the really short brake levers. And then with sweaty hands, I just hit something on the road. I slipped off my handlebar, crashed, and you fell over me. And until today, I feel so bad and terrible for you. You remember that day?
It's so funny, Jens, because you told me that story last year in the Tour de France, because I'm also like I'm a cycle expert at TV2 Denmark, so I also go to the Tour
I saw you there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I remember we talked about the story, and I was thinking, I cannot remember. But then when I came home, I looked in my training diary because I always put in a small note every day.
Oh, wait, and it said, stupid Jens Vogt, right?
It just said crash, actually, because you always put on notes, you always put in if something happened, like good legs, bad legs, or something crazy happens. So I look back, and it's actually true. There was a crash on that training camp, and then actually I remember it. But you remembered these great training camps we had in California, I remember this terrible crash of Nicky Sørensen. I also remember Kurt Larvesen had a bad crash. And remember, guys, we didn't have the helmets on, I remember one year it was a big discussion where we actually made it to a team rule. Now we need everyone to have a helmet on. But you two guys, you always had a helmet on. But I didn't, and the half of the team didn't have helmets on. But then I think after Nicky Sørensen's crash, there we decided to wear a helmet, but not before that. Yeah.
And remember, in that training camp once we did downhill training, and Matthew Goss crashed. What a stupid idea! On unclosed roads, do downhill training. Well, how stupid! But back then you go, yeah, it's normal. The boss says so we do it. But how stupid was that, right?
But then we also stopped it afterward because I remember you just have to follow Fabian Cancellara and follow Stuart O'Grady. Yeah, okay, and then. Patat.
Yeah.
What's the
man,
dumme?
I remember that
Yeah,
one. With,
really good for dumme.
that one with Nicky. Oh boy, we were done with the training. He was just going to put on his rain jacket or his vest, for the descent, and he put it in his front wheel. And man, I have never seen so much blood so quickly. And luckily it was all topical. Obviously the facial cuts, they bleed a lot quicker, so it looked a lot worse than it was. And luckily we had some good people there to take care of him, because that was scary. But yeah, we had some great training camps, but now I remember how many accidents we had, because we had 30 of the best guys in the world, and we were just quamming each other every day in training. So mistakes are going to happen. But let's talk a little bit more about the Danish talent that you guys have. I mean, we know about Mads Pedersen, Jonas Vingegaard, Magnus Kort, Matthias Skimose, but there is another kid who is really interesting, Albert Philipsen. He won the under-23 Paris-Roubaix this year. He started off very, very strong down in Tour Down Under. How are you guys, for such a small country, How do you guys produce so many great, talented riders, and now especially with Albert Philipsen coming into the mix?
It's actually a good question, Bobby and Jens, because I was also thinking that if you even go back like 5-6 years ago, like if you look at the juniors' results, it's crazy how good they are already. Like it's not like only one guy that's good. It's like sometimes in stage races they are like first, second, and third. And this guy Albert Witten Philipsen, he's good in cyclocross. He's good in mountain biking. He's good on the road. And like you said already in Down Under, in his first World Tour race, he's performing. And even in Strade Bianche, he had 2 punctures, and he gave his bike to a teammate, and he still finished 25th. And I think Strade Bianche this year was one of the toughest races with altitude meters and with the gravel and the length and everything. So he have a big engine. And I'm also thinking, if you look also not only to Danish cycling, but in generally, how can the young guys be so strong when they only are 18, 19 years old, because they must have done so much training. And I know, like Albert, he's doing a lot of training. If you look what he did as a junior, it's unbelievable, the load of training he can do. It's really impressive. There you must just say that the times have changed, because these young kids, man, they're just going in, and also when you hear interviews with them, they are confident. They are not afraid, they just go in and perform. So chapeau. Yeah.
Like another follow-up question for the Danish talents, Danish cycling. Is it all over the country where you find these talents, or is it 2 or 3 or 4 really strong communities where they search talents in certain regions only? Like junior teams, they have like 20, 30 members and they find all the talents, or does every little town has a cycling club?
No, there's this also Karl Rasch Jr. in Roskilde, actually, where Mads Pedersen is from, and also Mikkel Bjerg, and also that area like Anders Milke is from. They always had a good junior team, which was also going like outside of Denmark, and you have actually some good junior teams in Denmark where they also learn to ride as a team, and also Albert Witten, he was also on this junior team, and it even had like people in Bora, Hans Gore's Red Bull is the name now, junior team. We had, I think, 2 Danish riders in the junior team last year. We still have 1 rider this year, Rolf Sørensen's nephew, Noah Møller. That's also really, really good. So already now, there's so many upcomings, and they look up to Skelmose, they look up to Mads Pedersen, to Vingegaard, and before that it was Fuglsang, still Michael Valgren, Kasper Asgreen, and Søren Kragh Andersen. We have
Magnus Kort Nielsen.
Magnus Kort Nielsen. You can Andreas Krohn, Mikkel Bjerg. We can name them all, because the thing is now we have riders in 13 different World Tour teams. We have Danish riders, Back in the days, they were all in Saxo Bank or CSC, and then of course some other teams. But now they're really spread out, and also on the track. We are really, really good. We saw that lately at the World Championship in Ballerup in Denmark. That on the track they're also performing. So if you take the size of the country, I think only per people living in the country, Slovenian is maybe beating us because they also have a quite good good riders, with Roglic, Mohoric, and Pogačar, and I think only there are 2 million people living in Slovenian. So there's 5.6 in Denmark.
It feels to me, and I have seen it in the team and now, it seems like nothing motivates Danish riders more than seeing another Danish rider winning.
Exactly.
Is that true? There's a special rivalry, on a friendly way, but a special rivalry in between the Danes, no?
Exactly, and actually now I also forgot the Rasmus Søjberg, the Danish champion. You know, there was maybe a surprise to many that he got Danish champion last year, but you saw him also riding very good in Paris-Roubaix, and when the other sees this, you know, it's a little bit like a snowball, you know, that I also want to be good, you know, when he can, I can also, and that's I think also that's what you see in the best teams. You more internal competition you have, you sharper you get, you know, and of course the Danes, they have a big heart, you know, and they want to be the best, and you don't want to lose to a countryman, so you want to also step up, and yeah, I think that's what we saw in the 90s with Bjarne Riis, Rolf Sørensen, Bo Hamburger, Jesper Skibby, you know. We had some years where they also won. We had three Danish stage wins in the Tour de France, and it's a little bit the same we see now. And now we have Vingegaard that can win the Tour de France, you know. And even when he crashed in Baskerland, he's coming back, and he's still second in the Tour. So Danish cycling have never been better. Never ever it have been better. If you look at Mads Pedersen, classic campaign, it's unbelievable. His problem is that he is in the time of Pogacar and Mathieu van der Poel, but yeah, he tries every year to do his best, and the last 3 seasons here in the classics he's been so stable, and that's really great to see. And yeah, Sunday in Roubaix he just had bad luck. It could have been interesting to see him battle to the end, you know, but c'est la vie. That's Roubaix.
Yeah, that was kind of anticlimactic, to tell you the truth. You know, to us watching it, you know, we can't breathe because you know that something else could happen. But I think if just a normal person came in and flicked on Paris-Roubaix and saw people coming in like, you know, one by one in smaller groups, it probably wasn't as exciting as what they're used to seeing in some of the stages of the Tour. But who else from Denmark that we didn't mention is on the up and up as a junior or as an under 23? I mean, because Albert Philipsen, he gets a lot of attention. 18 years old, already signed a contract for 5 years, and it seems like more and more of these young kids coming out of the junior ranks are getting automatic 5-year deals. But is there anybody else that we need to keep an eye out from Denmark?
Yeah, you have to keep an eye on this guy, Peter Øxenberg. There's riding. Actually, he signed with Ineos, but now he's riding on this Kern Lotto team where Thorsten Schmidt is sports director. It's a continental team. Him and also Theodor Storm, a Danish rider that was sick and injured the whole season last year. He to not give them too much pressure, they actually because like Ineos, they don't have a developed team, so they actually start out on this Kern Lotto Conti team, and then the reason why Ineos they really want this guy Peter Øxenberg, that was because he you remember Vingegaard, when he get his contract with Visma, that was also because he did this Col de Rat test in Kalbe, where he actually beat the record. And this Peter Øxenberg, he come from this Colo Quick team, where also Vingegaard he came from. And every year in February, March, when they are on training camp in Spain, they are doing this test on Col de Rat, and Øxenberg, he beat the record last year. And then Ineos, they saw it, and also I think he had like UAE and other World Tour teams that want to sign him. And so Ineos, they give him, I think, 3 years contract. And on numbers, and that's the most important today, it's not about winning bike races. It's all about numbers, and that's what they all look into. And the reason why they signed with him was not, I think he won 1 or 2 races, but he didn't win a lot. But because of his numbers, watts per kilo, they think he's the future. So that's going to be interesting to see how he develops.
I'm going to have to ask you how to spell his name after we stop recording, because I have no idea even what letters to start with.
Because Ö is not in your alphabet, you know. That's O with umlaut in German.
Yeah, tusse duck.
Ja, tusind tak.
Tusind tak. Hey, Lars, an easy question. What are you doing these days? You have a podcast. We heard you do some work for TV, for Danish TV, right? TV2 maybe?
Yeah.
Like, what are you up to these days? Like, let us know a little bit. What's your life now?
I do as little as possible.
That is a very smart decision, and I'm so jealous on you.
No, actually, now I was in Roubaix for commentating the Paris-Roubaix for the women's and the men's race, and then last month I was commentating Catalonian and also Paris-Nice, and then I have other races now. I also go to the Tour de France, also Tour of Switzerland, and then I also gonna have a part of Tour of Spain and the World Championships and Danish Championship also. So. For the TV, it's like, you can say, like a season job, because in the winter there's not so many races, of course, on the road. Then I started my own podcast, Bak Lane, where the concept is a little bit like you two guys are doing, going to former teammates and get some great memories from we had together, and also to hear what they are doing. Then we moved back also to Denmark, the whole family. I lived many years in Luxembourg. Also my wife, she started working again, and she's quite busy with her job. So I'm like the houseman of the house, taking care of my kids, spending time with them. And I'm really enjoying not traveling 150 days per year. So for the moment, I'm working with the TV, and then I also go and of course do some speech. If a company wants to hear about cycling or other, you say, cycling clubs and cycling communities, I do quite a lot of that also. So that's also actually I enjoy to do that also. And actually now next in 2 weeks I have to go with Allan Johansen, also a former teammate. He do like cycling tours, and we're doing a cycling tour together in Girona in Spain, where we go and ride with people that joining the trip. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's actually also one thing I want to do, a little bit more. And now I will try it out with Allan. You remember also, Jens, we were also together with Danske Bank some years ago.
Yep.
And I also have done some of that before. Every year I have a bike. We have this 2 weeks bike camps in Lanzarote in Club La Santa. I every year a guide on Club La Santa. So that's also like something I do in the winter time. I really enjoy that, and I still also enjoy to ride my bike. You know, for me it's still with a lot of passion, and I'll never get bored. You know, one day takes another, take the other one, you know, and
Well, you know, one memory. You speaking about memories and old teammates. When you came to CSC in 2005, we did a race in Lancaster, New Jersey, and you were in the breakaway, and the commentator Dave Toll kept calling you Back Lars. So he had your name opposite. So like that kind of stuck. And from time to time when my wife is walking by, because I'd always just, you know, kind of say that from time to time, she would just out of nowhere say, "Hey, what's up with Back Lars?" You know, and just like so random, because Dave Toll coined that. And I'm in the field going, Is there another person up there? You know, Lars Bak Lars? Could he have just messed up the name? But we had so many good memories. And Lars, I just want to thank you for coming and sharing your story with us, telling about everything, catching up on old times. It was great having you. Good luck with all your endeavors. Jens is quite busy as well. I'm quite busy as well. But one thing I love that you said that you still love riding your bike. So we need to go because I'm going to go ride my bike with some friends right down the road after we get done here. So thanks again for coming on the Odd Tandem.
Thank you very much for having me, and it was with pleasure. Thanks.
Hey folks, thanks for watching the podcast. And if you enjoyed this chat with Lars, why not check out our videos with other former riders like Cadel Evans or Sven Nys by clicking here.
And remember, you can sign up to our Patreon to get an ad-free version of the podcast like these great people.